Hey everyone, it's me, Teacher Sam. And you know what? If you know me or even ever met me, you'd probably quickly find out that I like to talk. And I can talk a lot. A big reason for that is because growing up, I filled my head with a bunch of stories. I love hearing stories and I love telling stories. Stories about amazing people, faraway places, mystery, suspense, even some that are a little scary. Don't worry, we're not doing that this time, or even the next time. Well, this month, I hope to tell you guys about some of my favorite stories, and not just any stories, but stories that are 100% true. How do I know that they are true? Because they are from the Bible. This week's story is found in the book of 1 Samuel, which isn't just a cool book because of its name, Samuel, but because in chapter 24, David, the star of our story, hides in a cave. Yep, a cave. But not like Batman's cave, a real cave. Now for a little background. King Saul didn't like David. He was super jealous of him. Jealous to the point that he kept trying to kill him. He threw a spear at him and everything. Well, the story goes like this. After Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, he was told, David is in the desert of En-Gedi. So Saul took 3,000 able young men from all of Israel and set out to look for David and his men near the crags of the wild goats. He came to the sheep pens along the way, and a cave was there, and Saul went to relieve himself. Let's take a quick break right there to make sure you know what I'm talking about. I just came back from a pretty long driving trip. Have you ever been on a pretty long trip before? Well, whenever I go on a long trip with my family, after being in a car and eating and drinking lots of stuff, you eventually need to go. Like, you need to go. And King Saul wasn't in an air-conditioned car on Highway 5, but King Saul needed to go. And there weren't any rest stops or fast food restaurants like on our trips. So you know where King Saul went? That's right, in a cave. Oof. Back to our story. David and his men were far back in the cave. The same cave. His men said, "This is the day the Lord spoke of, when he said to you, I will give you your enemy into your hands for you to deal with as you wish." David's men knew that God would deliver his enemies to him, and they were like, do it, man. Get him. Take that dude out. You know, they were just telling him to go. But you know what David did? David crept up, unnoticed, pulled out a weapon, and cut off a corner of Saul's robe. He didn't hurt King Saul, but he just cut off a little piece of his clothes. I know, David had the chance to take out his enemy, and he didn't. He actually felt bad. He didn't want to lay a hand on his king, even though he was so the opposite of nice to him. So David told his men not to attack Saul either. By this time, King Saul finished his business and he left the cave. So at this point, David went out the cave and called out to Saul. King Saul must have been so scared to know that while he was taking care of his business, David was right there. But when King Saul looked behind him, David bowed down and said to Saul, "Why do you listen when people say that I want to hurt or harm you? Today, I could have, but I didn't." At this point, David went on to show him the piece of the robe that he cut off, to show that he was so close to him that he could have done anything he wanted, but he didn't hurt or harm him. David wanted to show the king that even though he was hunting him, David wasn't and wouldn't do anything to hurt the king. When David finished saying these things, Saul actually cried aloud. He told David that he was more righteous than him for doing the right thing, even though he could have done something pretty mean and bad. Like really mean bad things. After this, King Saul really didn't get better. And he didn't all of a sudden become a good guy to David. Well, we don't always know how things turn out. But when we're given the opportunity to do the right thing, I hope we always do it. My son is really into superheroes. And if you didn't know it, so am I. And something I told Grayson about superheroes is that they don't go around hurting people just to hurt people. They do what they do to help people. Yeah, sometimes it gets messy, but for the most part, they're trying to help people and not hurt people. When we have a choice like that to make, I hope we can make the right choice to help people, to give them a chance. Why? That's what God wants from us. I know that because He gives us chances all the time. Now, I really hope you enjoyed this week's story, and I've got another story for you next week. But I hope to see you before then, and guess what? We have some chances. You can join us at Park Days every Wednesday at Cuernavaca Park in Burlingame all throughout the summer, or you can come see me at church. We don't have kids ministry yet, but guess what? We are working hard on it to get it ready for you as soon as we can. If you or your parents have any questions, feel free to call or text me. They probably already have my number, and if they don't, look us up on the newnorth.church website. All right, guys, I hope to see you next time. Bye.